Hello and welcome back to Chopping It Up. I'm your host, Lucas Parent, as always. And we got a good episode for you today. Pretty simple. One of our guests couldn't make it, but we still have a special guest coming on later in the episode. We will have our fantasy football rundown as well. You know, we got the big Thanksgiving slate this upcoming week. And yeah, so let's get right into it with our NBA monologue, as we always do. So just a little check-in with the standings. Top 8 in the East and West. In the East right now, we're looking Boston, Philly, Milwaukee, Miami, Orlando, Indiana, Knicks, and Cleveland. Two teams that were in the playoffs last year that are looking in, Brooklyn and Atlanta. West, we have Minnesota, Denver, OKC, Dallas, Sacramento, Los Angeles Lakers, Phoenix, and New Orleans. Three teams that made the playoffs last year that are on the outside looking in, Golden State, Clippers, and the Grizzlies. Just one thing to look at. I'm not quite, it's obviously, as I will get to a little later in the podcast, it's only the first month done with the regular season, so I'm not banking too heavily on what I've seen so far, but maybe it'll be telling, and we'll see 5 teams that made the playoffs last year out of the field of play. The Spurs have the worst record in the Western Conference right now. I believe they have the third worst record in all of the NBA, and it's been abysmal. They have not won a game since November 2nd. At the time I'm recording this, it's November 21st, so that's obviously very problematic. And Wembanyama is in a little bit of an offensive slump following his big breakout game. Last night, only 9 points and a career-low 3 rebounds against the Clippers, who don't really have that signature rim protector that you would think of. They have Zubac and Daniel Tice. Shout out Daniel Tice, former Celtic and Pacer. He had 19 points, 7 rebounds off the bench, and Houston Rocket. Don't think I forgot about Daniel Tice's Rockets tenure. Wemby is shooting 42% from the field. I mean, that's not great for a guy that's taller than like 99% of the league, but hey, at the end of the day, he's still learning. It's only his first season, only the first month of his first season, so I'm not too worried about him. We got our rookie power rankings today. 10 guys that I've selected as my top 10 rookies so far in this month's rookie power rankings. Number 1, we got Chet Holmgren. Kind of a red shirt rookie, if you will. Didn't play last year after being injured prior to the season. He's averaging a 17 and 8 on 50, 40, 90 splits. And we're not talking like borderline 50, 40, 90. He's shooting 57% from the field, 46% from 3. In the Thunder system, it's just elite spacing out the wazoo. And Chet is taking full advantage of it. He works perfectly in this system. And he had 36 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists in an overtime win against the Warriors. He showed that clutch gene. He got the game to overtime. Chet is an exciting player, and I'm very interested to see how this Thunder team looks come May, because I believe they'll still be playing in May. Wembanyama, number 2. Again, not much to be said about him. We all know what he brings to the table. I have one note on him. I really think Jeremy Sochan playing point guard is hurting him as a player. I think they just need to make the move, and I'm not quite sure where Sochan fits into this team. I think he could have a little bit of a Scotty Barnes role, but I don't think he's as polished as a scorer as Barnes is. Not saying Barnes is that finish of a scorer either, but he'll give you 20 a night on a good night. So I'm not quite sure what Sochan does except for play defense, hard defense. His facilitation's been all right, like nothing special. I just don't get the point guard hype, and I think Trey Jones would overall just be a better fit if they started him next to Wemby. Third on the list, Asar Thompson. Thompson is averaging a double-double this season. He's 12th in the league in rebounding, and he's a tenacious defender out the gates. You don't really see that often, but he's looking like an all-defensive guy early in his career, and you love to see it. The Pistons are struggling mightily, but Asar Thompson is definitely a bright spot on this team. Fourth, I have Jordan Hawkins for the New Orleans Pelicans. I heard someone say, I believe it was Ryan Russillo, said that Jordan Hawkins looks a little Ray Allen-ish, and I kind of agree a little bit. This guy is an elite spot-up shooter, and he's just been in the league for 1 month. He had a slow start, but since then he's been turning up. He's averaging 13 a game, making 2.7 threes a game, which is crazy for a rookie. He's made 38 three-pointers already. I think he's a great aspect to this Pelicans team, and I'm really interested to see what it'll look like when McCollum gets back and when Trey Murphy gets back. And when all the bench guys are healthy, I'm not sure if that can even happen with this team, but I'm very excited because this looks like a dangerous team with all these weapons they got. Fifth, I have Derek Lively for the Mavericks. Lively himself, I'm not quite sure as a player how great he is, but in this system, it's exactly what the Mavericks needed. He's a lob threat, interior defender, can steal the paint off. He's averaging a near double-double, had a double-double in his first game. This guy is a beast, and he's exactly the type of guy you'd want to have next to Luka. I feel like with Luka, we're going to get into that stage soon where, remember looking back on LeBron's days, I'm not quite sure how many listeners were around for LeBron's early days, but think about LeBron's early days and you look at his teammates. He's got like those the role players, like the Mo Williams, the Daniel Gibson. I think Zydrunas Ilgauskas was a little too good to be in that company, but that's what we'll be looking at Derek Lively as. We'll be, okay, now this was a guy, and then you explain what the guy, and I think Derek Lively is one of those guys where you'll get nostalgic 10 years down the road when he's killing it with Indiana or someone. You'll be like, man, Luka Doncic is looking great. He's off his second championship. And I remember he was playing with Derek Lively, and man, what a special pairing that was. Sixth on my list currently, I have Cason Wallace. Cason Wallace is another guy who's benefiting heavily off the elite spacing provided by the defense of OKC. Not the spacing of OKC, excuse me, but his defense is next level, similar to Asar Thompson. He's locked down. He can play some offense too. He can shoot the ball a little bit. He's giving me heavy shades of Drew Holiday thus far, so I'm very interested to see his development, especially in an OKC system where it seems that every time they have a draft, it's just hit after hit after hit. All right, eighth. I need to apologize. I'm being very poor with my numbers this morning, so my apologies. Seventh on the list, Keontae George, averaging a 9-3 and 5 on an awful Utah team. This guy looks like he could be the Jazz guard of the future. He can do a little bit of everything. Enough said about Keontae George. Number 8, I have the second pick in the draft, Brandon Miller. He had a career-high night the other night for the Hornets. Looks a little Paul George-ish, I've been noticing. And that's who he said the greatest player of all time was not too long ago. So I'm excited for Brandon Miller's come-up. 9th, I have Jaime Jaquez Jr. for the Miami Heat. Great role player already. Heat culture, baby. 10th, I have Marcus Sasser. Detroit, I'm a little confused. They have a plethora of guards. They're still starting Killian Hayes over Jaden Ivey, which I believe is criminal in itself. Free Jaden Ivey. Hopefully they send him to Utah to be a combo guard next to Keontae George. All right. As we are 1 month into the season, I have my award ballot here. These are my first month awards. MVP, I got Nikola Jokic. The Nuggets, up until last night, were first in the West. They've been missing Jamal Murray, and they're still looking like a great team. We all know what Jokic brings to the table. I said after the finals, probably recency bias at the time, but I really don't think so because I still agree to this day that Nikola Jokic is the single greatest player I've watched. Now, let me say this. I started watching basketball for real like 3 years ago, but casually around that 2013-2014 era. I understand what LeBron brings to the table, but the stuff that Jokic does is just otherworldly, and I'm going to stand by it. I'm going to stand on the comment I made. I really am under the impression that Nikola Jokic is the best, greatest player that I've watched with my own eyes. Now, obviously, LeBron is greater all time. We know this. But from what I've seen off of Jokic, I'm putting him over LeBron in terms of I watched that guy and I recognized, okay, this man is the best player in the world right now. And I don't think anyone's ever had a bigger gap than Jokic does right now. In my lifetime. Since I've started watching hoops, which we're talking 2013 range, 10 years ago. DPOY, I have Bam Adebayo. Bam has really been holding it down for the Miami Heat this season. Good rebounding. He had like a 20-20-10 the other night. And yeah, that's who I like for my DPOY out of the gate. Rookie of the Year, Chet Holmgren. We already talked on him. Most improved player, Tyrese Maxey. I got into him a little bit on another podcast. He's been killing it for Philly this season. Coach of the Year, I have a little bit of a surprise here. I have Jamal Mosley of the Orlando Magic. The Magic are killing it, and Their defense is like the top of the league. They really clamped up the Pacers the other day, and I like Jamal Mosley for that award. Sixth man of the year, I have Emmanuel Quickly. He just brings a lot off the bench, and you love to see him on your team. All right, my All-NBA team off the first month of the season. First team, I have Curry, Doncic, Durant, Embiid, Jokic. I put both Embiid and Jokic because I believe this season is the season where it's positionless. Second team, I have De'Aaron Fox, Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum, Giannis, and LeBron. And the third team, I have Shea, Maxey, Bam Adebayo, Lauri Markkanen, and Tyrese Halliburton. You guys know we're coming up on that Thanksgiving season. So as a wrap-up to this segment, I've included 5 players that I'm grateful for. First one, Paolo Banchero. At the beginning of the year, I was not sold as to what Paolo could be. I wasn't sure about his defense, but man, this guy has been special, and he's repping for all us Italians in the league. Go Paolo. Number 2, Brandon Podziemski. Rookie on the Warriors, looks great already. Looks like a solid rotational player, fresh out of college. Shout out Brandon Podziemski. Third, maybe one of the most unique defenders in the league, if we're going forward like 3 years, Bilal Coulibaly. This guy is a mystery to me. He's on the Wizards right now, who are not a good team, but is just a great defender already. Gets a lot of steals, gets some blocks. I like Bilal Coulibaly. Fourth, Alperen Şengün. Looks like 80% of Nikola Jokic. That's all I need to say. And the last player that I'm grateful for, I'm thankful for this Thanksgiving, I got to give it to Chris Paul. If you know me, you know there may not be someone who likes Chris Paul as little as I do. But man, since this guy arrived in Golden State, he's actually been very good, and I got to give credit where credit is due. I got to give Chris his flowers. This man has been killing it with the second unit this season. I'm still not sold that his style fits with Steph Curry's, but man, with Steve Kerr trotting out these 2-guard lineups, I have really liked what I've seen out of Chris Paul. He's limiting the turnovers. He's been efficient with the assists, scored the ball a little bit. Shout out Chris Paul. I'm thankful for this man this Christmas. That's all we have for our opening monologue today, and I'm going to be joined by a special guest very shortly. All right, we're back, and I am joined by
Lydia Paul.
And we have a very special game today. It's called Hypotheticals. I thank you, Chuck Klosterman, for this incredible game. Basically features prompts and an insane question, or I guess the prompts are insane in themselves, and we're just going to get right into it, okay? First prompt, LP. Genetic engineers at Johns Hopkins University announced that they have developed a so-called super gorilla. Though the animal cannot speak, it has a sign language lexicon of more than 12,000 words, an IQ of nearly 85, and most notable, a vague sense of self-awareness. Oddly, the creature, who weighs 700 pounds, becomes fascinated by football. The gorilla aspires to play the game at the highest level and quickly develops the rudimentary skills of a defensive end. ESPN analyst Tom Jackson speculates that this gorilla would be borderline unblockable and would likely average 6 sacks a game, although Jackson concedes that the beast may be susceptible to counters and misdirection plays. Meanwhile, the gorilla has made it clear that he would never intentionally injure any opponent. You are the commissioner of the NFL. Would you allow this gorilla to sign with the Raiders?
Honestly, why not? You know, I think it would make it more interesting.
Do you think this paves the way for more super animals to make their way into the NFL?
I think it really would. I think, you know, we start with 700-pound gorillas and move forward to whatever's next, I guess.
All right, second question. Think of someone who is your friend, but do not select your best friend and make sure the person is someone that you would classify considerably more than an acquaintance. This friend is going to be attacked by a grizzly bear. Now, this person will survive the bear attack, that is guaranteed. There is a 100% chance that your friend will live. However, the extent of his injuries are unknown. He may receive nothing but a few superficial scratches, but he also might lose a limb or multiple. He might recover completely in 24 hours with nothing but a great story, or he may spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair. Somehow, you have the ability to stop this attack from happening. You can magically save your friend from the bear, but his salvation will come at a peculiar price. If you choose to stop the bear, it will always rain. For times of your life, wherever you go, it will be raining. Sometimes it will pour and sometimes it will drizzle, but it will never not be raining. But it won't rain over the totality of the earth, nor will the hydrological cycle be disrupted. These storm clouds will be isolated and they will focus entirely on your specific whereabouts. You will never see the sun again. Do you stop the bear and accept a lifetime of rain?
I like rain, but I don't think I'm gonna stop that bear attack. I gotta see the sun at some point.
This is true. All right. Third question. You meet a wizard in downtown Chicago. The wizard tells you he can make you more attractive if you pay him money. When you ask how this process works, the wizard points to a random person on the street. You look at this random stranger. The wizard says, "I will now make him $1 more attractive." He waves his magic wand. Ostensibly, this person does not change at all. As far as you can tell, nothing is different. But somehow, the person is suddenly a little more appealing. The tangible difference is invisible to the naked eye. The wizard has a weird rule, though. You can only pay him once. You can't keep giving him money until you're satisfied, and you can only pay him one lump sum up front. How much cash do you give the wizard?
I'd say like $5 or $10. It's enough to make me feel like maybe I'm doing something, but it's not so much that I feel like I'm completely wasting my money.
Is downtown Chicago a place you would expect to see a wizard?
I mean, maybe. No, but maybe.
We don't know what goes on in Chicago. All right, final question. You are placed in the unenviable position of having to compete for the right to stay alive. You will be matched against a person of your own gender in a series of 5 events: an 800-meter run, a game of Scrabble, a 3-round boxing match, a debate over legalization, and the math portion of the SAT. In order to survive, you must win at least 3 of these events. Your opponent will be playing for his or her life as well. However, you kind of get to pick your opponent. You can either compete against a person selected at random or compete against someone who is exactly like you. If selected at random, the individual could be of any age or skill level. They may be an infant, but they may be an academic All-American linebacker from Notre Dame. If you pick the average human, they will be precisely your age and will have an identical level of education. The person will be a perfect cross-section of your particular demographic. They will be of average height and average weight, with a standard IQ and the most normative life experience imaginable. Who do you select? Or do you feel that you are better of the average version of yourself?
I'd say I'm gonna go with the average version of myself, because that gives me the best odds of winning something. Because, like, I could win if it was, an infant, but the odds are not in my favor if I go with someone random.
So you don't think you could compete against an academic All-American linebacker from Notre Dame?
I don't think so, no.
I don't think I could either, so no hard feelings on that one. Thank you for coming on today, Lydia.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and I'm joined by
JT in the place to be.
All right, and we're talking no fantasy this week. We're just going to be talking strictly football.
All right, so this Thursday, as you know, it's Thanksgiving. It's a top-tier holiday, and on holidays we usually have more NFL games, and we have 3 this week. So this Thursday at 12:30, we have the Packers at Detroit, and honestly, I feel like you got to just go Detroit on this one. I mean, the Packers, I know you're a Packers fan, but honestly, they're garbage, and the Lions, they've just been super hot. And then at 4:30, we have the Commanders at Dallas, and honestly, the Commanders, they have a terrible O-line, but they have an MVP type of quarterback. And you know what? I'm going to go Commanders upset on this one. And then at 8:30, we have 49ers at Seattle, and obviously I'm a Niners fan. But I'm going to be non-biased, but I'm going to still go with the Niners because we're the best team in the league. So.
All right, one thing, Sam Howell as an MVP candidate, that might be one of your worst takes. But, JT, what's one food you're hoping is on the table this Thanksgiving?
That's a good one, but it's a no-brainer. You got to go sweet potato casserole for sure.
And let me hear one teacher you're thankful for.
One teacher I'm thankful for.